Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be hopping in the boat with Donnie O'Bert, and he's going to share a number of tips that'll help you catch more walleyes, pulling crankbaits, and he's also going to put one of those big rainy lake walleyes in the boat for you as well. So hey, without further ado, let's get right to the big fish.
So this fish is dogging me down. What we're trolling right now is a long rock spine that dips into deep mud on both sides of it. So we're just trolling the transition back and forth here, 2 miles an hour. I'm running it with the 50+2 method, and what that is 50 feet of line out, 2 ounce snap weight, and then you let out the remainder of the line. So we were at like 120 on this bait. So these baits are getting down to that rock and mud transition right where we need them to be. And we're just pulling them across the fish's nose. This is a good fish. This is a heavy fish. We're just gonna take our time and ease it in. We still got 95 feet of line out, so somebody be watching those other rods. This is behaving like a big walleye. Just heavy pressure, no screaming runs. Oop, there's a head shake. I can see my weight. Still 86 feet out. Charlie, when this weight gets here, I'm just gonna step back to the windshield. So if you wanna step up on this back shelf, just, you know, one of the mistakes I see is people wanna rush through this when you're trolling, and they wanna see that fish so bad that they just crank and crank and crank. And actually the best thing you can do is just nice, steady, even pressure on that fish. You know, it's not a race. Nice, steady, even pressure. Charlie, did you see how those snap weights work? It's one little lever and try not to touch the line. Where are we with our buoy here?
Past it.
Oh, nice. We're out in no man's land. So just click the lever and the weight will drop off. You might have to give it a little shake. Pull the lever down. Bring it back to you. There you go. Yep, just give it a little shake. I'll put the tension back on that fish. Oh yeah, it's still there. 19 feet. Looks golden.
Oh, it's big, Donnie.
Looks golden.
Oh, that's a really big one.
We're just gonna take our time. Don't swing for that fish until you know you can get it. Because what happens is that front treble hits the net and the fish pops. Oh. Yeah, buddy. Nice fish. That's that Rumble B. Rumble B 13. Big fish like big baits, and you're about to see a big walleye that chewed on this one. That's what we come here for. Look at that sloped forehead. That's something you can't fake. You can't long arm a fish. You can't make it have that sloped forehead.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, that's a healthy fish right there. Get that dorsal up.
All right, let's get her back. That was definitely a beauty, and she smacked the crankbait, fought good. And one thing that's really important when you're pulling crankbaits is making sure that they're running straight before you send them back, and it messes up your spread or doesn't catch any fish. So here's what Donnie does to check to make sure the cranks are ready to go before he sends them back.
Okay, so we just unboxed this Rumble B 13. This is one of my favorite colors up here on Rainy Lake. The first thing you want to do with any crankbait before you deploy it is just swing it out the side of the boat with a couple of feet of line out and make sure that bait tracks straight. If that bait tracks hard right or hard left, it's gonna dive into your spread, hook onto your other lines, and you're gonna have nothing but problems. So before you send one back out into the field, make sure that bait's running true.
Great. Now if it's not, what do you do?
If you find your bait is pulling hard to one side or the other, you can use a set of needle nose pliers, or you can use a crankbait tuner, and you move just this hard eyelet that's actually in the bait, right or left, in tiny little increments, and then retest it. If it's running hard one way, bend her back the other. So you can always make little adjustments on crankbaits. Northlands, I found, have come out of the package really consistently as true runners.
Next up, Donnie's gonna talk a little bit about his rod and line setup for trolling crankbaits.
So I've got my trolling setups. I have an 8-foot rod with a very slow action, and then I run just 10-pound XT. So what I have is built-in shock absorption. So if you're running a stiffer rod and braid, more often than not, the boat's gonna yank that crankbait right out of the fish's mouth. So I like having, mono gives me a lot of stretch, and a softer tipped rod also can act as a real nice shock absorber to help keep those fish pinned up.
Next, Donnie's gonna talk a little bit about the little idiosyncrasies that you need to catch fish when you're trolling with crankbaits, and just kind of how it's important to pay attention to what you're doing so you can replicate those patterns and ultimately catch more walleyes.
So when you're trolling, there are so many factors that go into a successful pattern, whether it's speed, depth, number of feet of line out, the baits you're using, the design of the bait. And one that has struck me as odd over the years of guiding here is direction of travel. So there are times when I'll pull a mile-long stretch with the wind and get 10 fish, 10 bites. And we'll turn around and follow that same path the other direction and get one. So clearly you want to test the theory, so you turn around and come back a third time and get 10 bites. So there are definitely situations where pulling one direction outproduces pulling the opposite direction.
Do you have any theories? Is it like
100% fish positioning? So, and I can't tell you whether they're into the wind or into the sun or with the wind or with the sun. It seems like it's any given day, it can be any number of things, but there's definitely a pattern there. So the fun of walleye fishing is it has always been replicatable patterns. If you can get one walleye doing this, you should be able to get several walleyes doing this. So, if you're out and you're setting up a trolling run, noticing a lot of little things can make a big difference. If you're always getting bit on the outside rod of a turn, well, that lure's speeding up. The inside lures are slowing down. So there's, just being observant will definitely help you put more fish in the boat.
Like Donnie mentioned, being observant, paying attention to what you're doing when you're having success so that you can replicate it, catch more fish, is extremely important when you're pulling crankbaits for walleyes. But hopefully you found some of the content in this video useful and entertaining, and if you did, make sure to hit that little red subscribe button down below, because we have a lot more content coming in the future here. And until then, we will see you in the next one.